Let's take a look at graphing one cycle of the tangent wave. We will also state the period of this function. So I am starting with a unit circle, and the unit circle has angles along. So this is angle 0. This is in radians, pi halves, angle pi, 3 pi halves, and also this is 2 pi. And we also know that these points along the unit circle represent cosine theta and sine theta. Now, since we're doing tangent, we have to remember that tangent theta, by our ratio identity, is sine theta divided by cosine theta. So let's take a moment to generate the sine theta over cosine theta for each of these points. So keep in mind the first one is cosine, the second one is sine. So the tangent would be 0 over 1, which is 0. Here it would be 1 over 0. That's undefined. And then sine over cosine, 0 over -1 is 0. And sine over cosine, this one again, is undefined. So what this information is giving us is along the x values. Now the x values here represent the angles, so we have them in red. So 0 and pi halves and pi, 3 pi halves and 2 pi. What we're getting for the tangent function is 0, 0, then undefined, then 0, then undefined, and then back to 0. This isn't really giving us a lot of information. Let me label these values. So this is 0 and pi halves, pi, 3 pi halves, 2 pi. What I'm getting is that pi halves is undefined. What that actually is a vertical asymptote. The graph never crosses pi halves because it would be undefined. We also have one at 3 pi halves. That is actually enough for us to see what the period is, because between these two asymptotes, the graph of the cosine wave, or sorry, the tangent wave is going to happen. Between pi halves and 3 pi halves, that's a period of pi. Okay. Now we also have these points, 0 and pi and 2 pi are all at 0, the value for tangent. So this isn't necessarily enough for us to go on. So I'm going to do another point. I know a nice value for tangent at pi fourths. Tangent is 1. So this extra point, this is at pi fourths. The tangent is 1. Let's put this at 1. A little more to know about tangent. All students take calculus. Tangent goes from positive, and then at pi fourths, then it's negative, and then positive. So again, in the second quadrant, we're now looking between pi halves and pi. Tangent's negative, only sine's positive. So tangent's negative, and then it's to 0, and then it's to positive. Third quadrant, tangent's positive, and then it's undefined. So it goes from negative to 0 to positive, then back to negative, 0, and then positive. So it's going from negative to 0 to positive. Negative, and it's actually going through at -1, 0 to positive. And that is one cycle of the tangent. Now the normal cycle that you will see, the asymptotes are all equally spaced. Is this one. This is negative pi halves. Oh, wrong color. There we go. Negative pi halves to pi halves. That's the normal cycle that people discuss with the tangent, from negative pi halves to pi halves, going increasing. So we can see the period from here to here. Is pi. This is the normal period for a tangent and a cotangent. The normal period for sine, cosine, secant, and cosecant are 2 pi. But for tangent and cotangent, the period is pi. So there's a little more to do on this one. You have to create the tangent out of these sine and cosines, and you also have to have an extra point, and I use the pi fourths because of the nice value for tangent at pi fourths to get an idea of how it's crossing through between undefineds and 0 in the middle. And that completes one cycle of the tangent.